Welcome again, everybody. I'm Dr. Jessica Wright, and this is our series, The Tools for Perseverance. We're excited that you could join us. This week, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence, and we're going to talk specifically about our reaction to emotions. So emotions are chemical signals in our brains that we evolved to help us survive in the wild. So if you've ever been to the zoo and seen our gorillas, you know that humans are not the strongest animals. We are, however, the best at problem solving, and our emotions are some of our unconscious and our primitive brain giving us a signal as to something that's going on. So one of my favorite authors, Glennon Doyle, refers to certain kinds of emotions as being like a doorbell. Ding dong, someone's here, and you've got a package. So that's the analogy that we're going to be using, that we get these signals from our bodies that remind us something's going on, right? Something's here. So when we experience emotion, they're going to be referred to as doorbells. Ding dong, something's going on. Our emotions, like I said, are a message from our unconscious brain. They're produced in a very primitive part of our brain that our consciousness does not have awareness of until after it gets sent from the primitive part to our more conscious part. We get to pick, however, the thoughts that we have. So we get to select thoughts like clothes that we're preparing to wear for the day. We get to pick out our thoughts just like we get to pick out our clothes. So when we have an emotion, really the key thing is to identify, oh, ding dong, I'm having an emotion, right? There it is. The package is here. And you get to choose the thought that you have, because that thought is going to reinforce another emotion, and then the behavior that comes after it. So if you get cut off in traffic, your thought might be, you might have a flash of emotion, a flash of anger, and your thought might be, ugh, that person's a jerk. I can't believe they cut me off. And the emotion that you might feel is sort of like righteous anger. Oh, who do they think they are? And then the behavior that you might have is to do some destructive behavior on the highway, like follow someone down the highway. However, if you were to interrupt this cycle, if you have that initial emotion, ding dong, there's a flash of anger, a package has arrived, you've got this anger that's there, you can select a thought like, maybe you can select a thought with compassion, like, okay, maybe that person really has to go to the bathroom. Or you can select a thought based on self-preservation. So you could think, maybe it's not the best idea for me to chase another person down the highway. And then your emotion might be reinforced as like, yeah, I'm frustrated that this person did that, but it's not that big of a deal. Your behavior would change to you driving safely home. Now, there are sort of three levels. If you ever played the old Mario game that came out in the 1980s, there are three levels of Mario. So there's little teeny tiny Mario, there was medium-sized Mario, or I guess big Mario, but then there was the big Mario that could throw the fireballs, and that was the ultimate. If you started playing with Mario as a little one and you were able to build him up to that big one, you could get through the levels more easily. You can get through every level with tiny Mario, but it's easier to get through if you're big Mario, and even easier to get through if you're Mario who throws the fireballs. So tiny Mario is like a very basic skill set that you might have with emotional intelligence. Just recognizing that you're experiencing an emotion. Oops, I feel something, right? Ding dong, there's a package here. We don't even know what it is. We're not going to unpack it. We're just thinking, ding dong, something's here. I'm feeling an emotion. The next level up, so if you were to get that sort of large size Mario, you might be able to identify what the emotion is. Like, I feel anxious. We're going to talk a lot about anxiety during these sessions because it is an emotion that a lot of us are feeling a lot of right now. I feel anxious. And then that extra special Mario, the one that can throw the fireball, is saying, I feel anxious because, right? Naming why you're feeling anxious. It's not necessary to do that third level, but it is helpful to do that third level if you can identify why you're experiencing an emotion. One of the reasons that during the COVID-19 pandemic we're all feeling so anxious is because this is a novel threat. So our brains try to do, by the way, we are terrible. We're great, humans are great problem solvers, but we are terrible at assessing levels of risk. So, for example, we feel very comfortable jumping in our cars and driving across town on the highway, despite the fact that that is probably the most dangerous thing that we do most of our days, is get in a car and drive on the highway. The rates of accidents and our likelihood of actually getting in a car accident are quite high, but it feels comfortable to us because it's a threat we're familiar with. COVID-19 is a novel threat. This is an unprecedented situation. The last time it happened, no one we knew was alive. The Spanish pandemic was a lot, many years ago, and this is something new to us. Not only is it novel, right? It's a novel thing that's happening. It's a novel threat. Oh, look, there's a motorcycle going down the highway next to my house. Working from home is really interesting. Not only is it a novel threat, but it's also it's evolving continuously, it's changing all the time, and there's a lot of unpredictability. All of that, we'll talk later about how that impacts the activity in our brains. But novel threats that are uncertain create a lot of anxiety in our brains. Our brains are evolved to experience that to help keep us alive. So this is the format of kind of a worksheet that we're all going to fill out. So if you're following along at home, you can sort of draw this out or take notes as we go along. Your doorbells. Doorbells that indicate, remember, doorbells are going to be those indications that, hey, you're experiencing anxiety. You're experiencing something that is, an emotion of some sort. Doorbells that may, make you alert to the fact that you're experiencing it. You might have changes in sleep. You might have changes in eating. You might have difficulty concentrating. You might find that you have a headache, or that you are clenching your jaw or your hands. You might find that you have a pounding heart. You might find yourself being irritable with people around you, or avoiding the things that you like, or withdrawing from people. So for me, when I get anxious, I can feel my heart pounding, and I tend to hunch my shoulders a little bit, and I clench my shoulders and my neck. So if I'm feeling very anxious, that's one of the indications. That's my doorbell. When I can feel the pain in my shoulders because I have sort of clenched them together, my shoulder pain is my doorbell, right? So your homework for today is to think about, what are your personal doorbells? How do you know when you're feeling anxious? It looks different for each one of us. Y'all know I do a lot of public speaking, and so I don't get anxious when I stand up in front of a room to talk, right, to give a presentation. It does not make me feel anxious or scared, but there are lots of other situations that do. And I might find myself, like I said, having that shoulder pain, or for me, clenching my fist, right? So clenching my fist is a way that if I notice it, ding dong, there's a doorbell that's indicating, hey, you're experiencing emotion and we need to do a reset. So a reset, that's a little bit of a preview for tomorrow, but we will talk about them in extensive detail tomorrow, the different reactions that we can have to our doorbells. All right, this was great. Thanks for joining us.